Hello, good afternoon to you. My apologies to the people who were watching earlier on and went off air. As you know, we're in a beautiful country called Nigeria, and sometimes not all things work together like we want it to. So I'm using two network right now, the network providers for my internet, just to be sure that I don't go off again. Hopefully, in the next 30 minutes, I'll be together with Victoria Oshidikwe. Now I got the name better, right?
Yes, it's much better now.
Okay. And my guest is joining me today for the show, the DNA show, because she's an expert on these issues. She's a forensic analyst. Once I saw your title when I was sent your name, I was like, I heard the music of CSI in my head or NCIS when you see those guys in the lab who do all the forensic analysis there. And so I find you like to be the brain box of every investigation. Am I right to assume that? Yes, that's your position.
Maybe, maybe.
You're welcome to the show.
Thank you
Now,
very
this show,
much.
the DNA show, is um, sponsored or in collaboration with the ITSI Biosciences. And I've done a
Yeah.
lot of introductions prior to this show about it. And like I said on my other introduction, I said it was established in 2004. And it was brought together by scientists and industry people, entrepreneurs who saw a need for this, and much more than just DNA investigation. They do a lot more uh, when it comes to analysis or when it comes to um, diagnosis. You're welcome to the show. Okay, so let's go straight to. Can you tell me what type of DNA investigations are carried out? We all in Nigeria, once we hear DNA, we think, oh my God, somebody's infidelity is about to be found out. Something scandal is about to happen. Once you hear DNA, that's just it. But there are other reasons why DNA are being carried out. So, how many types of DNA investigations do we have?
Okay. So basically, DNA investigation, just on the basic level, it involves examining a person's DNA to gather information about their genetic makeup. So based
Mm,
on this application, we have a wide range. So
mm,
the first thing I'd like to speak about is the forensic DNA test, and this
okay.
is the critical part of DNA. This is using DNA to solve crimes. So most times we either try to link a suspect to a crime scene or
Mm,
exonerate people from crime scenes.
mm,
So the very popular CSI one that they will say, oh, from Strand they found
mm,
the person and all. And then the popular one, the one that you're speaking about, the one that everybody thinks about when they hear about DNA, is
mm,
relationship testing. So
yes.
it's relationship DNA testing. But once people hear DNA, that's the first part that their mind goes to.
Oh,
And
yes.
this Yes. So this is used to establish biological relationships between individuals. So we have
Mm,
a wide range of tests. We have paternity, that's father and child. We have maternity, mother and child. We can check to see if people are siblings, if somebody is the biological uncle or aunt of a child, and also
mm,
grandparentage. So grandparentage is to check if this pet, like if someone is the biological grandparent of a child, of an individual. Then
mm,
we also have ancestry. So I don't know if this is mostly common abroad. You will hear people say that, oh, I'm 50% African, 40% Caucasian. So basically, this is used to trace someone's genetic ancestry, and it usually checks specific markers that's associated with a particular population. Then we
mhm,
have the medical DNA investigation. That's the last part.
mm,
So they try to identify the risk of developing certain diseases. So most times you hear, oh, someone will tell you, oh, my father was diabetic, my grandfather was diabetic. What are the
mm,
chances of being diabetic? So they try to check the prognosis and the best treatment for genetic disorders things like autism disease, Parkinson's disease. They try to see, oh, if you're at risk of developing this disease, and the best way to treat the disease if you actually are going to develop it.
Okay.
So
Right.
those are
So
the
in
types.
case,
Yeah.
so those are the types. Okay. So the next question to ask is blood the only way DNA can be extracted?
Okay. No, actually. So for relationship DNA testing, it's very rare to see a center that uses blood, because blood is invasive, blood is messy. It's only someone that is certified, a phlebotomist, it's only someone that is certified that can collect blood. So what most centers use now is buccal swabs for
Okay.
relationship DNA testing. So it's just like, a cotton wool, but it has a
Yeah.
longer, and they take skin cells from inside of your mouth.
Okay.
So that is what most centers use. But for forensic testing, most times it's trace DNA that you will find. You will see that, oh, the suspect touched something, the suspect smoked and dropped the cigarette somewhere, the suspect drank a cup of water. So most times what we get is trace DNA. And when we get blood means that there's going to be a large amount of DNA. But most of the time, if you are going to find blood, it will actually be blood of the victim and not blood of the suspect.
Okay. All right. So
Yes.
when it comes to the genetic DNA,
Yes.
for instance, in Nigeria, do you think we have enough data for anyone to like trace their ancestry in any way?
Okay, so what actually, even in the US, it's not a lot of centers that address. There are specific centers that deal with DNA ancestry. So there's a special kit. The kit is not just like how I said, relationship DNA testing. You collect buccal swabs. The kit we use for ancestry DNA is different from the normal kits for relationship DNA. The process is different. So what we do, we collect it. We use the kit to collect. Then we ship to these centers that do the ancestry.
Okay. So
Yes.
they would do with that. Okay. Now another question that I'd like to know is a lot of times when we find people going to do DNA investigations, especially in Nigeria, a lot of it has to do with infidelity. But is it possible that, for instance, I just want to find out if we have any genetic disease, in our lineage, and we just want to investigate, find out, can it be passed on? How can someone go into a place like that and not feel condemned? I'm saying this in relation, for instance, when HIV and AIDS was prevalent, and people were going for testing, even volunteer testing, for the fact that just to be safe or to know what to do next. It always came with a certain stigma and a certain, yeah. So how would I be able to just go and do a testing just because I want to be sure my children don't carry on something that may be passed on, and not feel a certain sense of stigma with it?
Okay, so there are a lot of reasons for DNA testing, but I think in this part of the world, because of social media era and the stories that we have heard, once we hear DNA, think of infidelity. But there is family reunification, there's inheritance disputes, there's immigration purposes, a lot of reasons for DNA. It's not just infidelity, someone having, like, there are a lot of reasons why a lot of people actually do DNA testing. If your family is abroad and you want to relocate to go and meet them or anything, you actually have to do a DNA test. The UK embassy, the US embassy, they would always ask for a DNA test. Also, okay, so family reunification, things like human trafficking, like they are not, the police or the immigration people in charge will not just hand over the child or the adult or the person basically to the first person that comes to say this is my family. They would like to establish that there's a biological relationship between them. So that's also another reason for DNA testing. So inheritance disputes, man had numerous children, or he wrote a will and it's like, oh, every child of mine has to like do a DNA test to confirm. So there are a lot of reasons why people do DNA testing. For me, I feel like infidelity is one of the least reasons, because there's also court disputes, custody battles, things like that are reasons why people do DNA tests.
Okay. So, for instance, if a woman or a man wishes to do a DNA, carry out a DNA investigation on any of their children, would they need a court order to do it, or can they just really come in and just do it? Is there any law that says that a person's permission must be taken? I've heard wild stories of men just taking their kids and doing a DNA testing without the wife's knowledge or consent. Must there be a consent before you do a DNA investigation on a child from either parties? Would there be a demand for that, either by your lab or by the courts, to say it's not valid because there was never any legal freedom to do that? Would someone need that to do such a thing?
We have two types of tests. We have the peace of mind testing and we have the legal testing. So for the legal testing, if the child is below 18, both parents have to give consent for the child sample to be taken. If the child is above 18, the child can give consent on his or her own behalf. For peace of mind, it's just for your own personal knowledge. We need just one parent basically to give consent for the child. If the child is below 18, if the child is above 18, the child can also give consent for his or herself. But for peace of mind testing, you cannot use it anywhere. You can't take it to court. You can't use it for immigration purpose. You can't take it to the police station. It is only for your own personal knowledge.
Okay. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. I've always been worried about that. As much as I feel like if you are in doubt of someone and you went as far as to get some investigations, for me, for it to be valid, we would need some legal backing. But if, like you said, I'm glad to know that authorities don't take it as someone's present evidence unless they have asked for a legal backing for it. Now, in a case where there's disputes like inheritance or chieftaincy title and the rest of it, when people come for investigation, I really wish to see a day where in Nigeria, we would have that happen. Like you said, in America, you figure out where exactly you're coming from. And I asked that earlier when I said, do we have that kind of database or at least some sort of information? So during the last elections, I saw a lot of reports where a community will wake up and say, this person does not come from us, he's not from us, his father migrated from blah, 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 blah. You understand? And they just say it based on word of knowledge. And I'm looking at people saying it, and I'm like, you can't be up to 100. You couldn't have known when this person's father came over here. So is it possible that we can have that in Nigeria? Is it happening, or are we going to look forward to that, where there's dispute, where a child can come 100 years later and say, I'm a child of this king or this president, and there'll be enough evidence? Do we have it going on, or are we hoping to have it soon?
So the reason why when I was speaking about ancestry, I divided it into Asian, Caucasian, African, because if you look at the African population, our population is quite similar. You see that, a Nigerian migrated to Ghana, a Ghanaian migrated to Senegal. So there's a lot of mixing, and also we have the same descendants. So our population is very, very similar. So there's not enough evidence to say that, this person is a Ghanaian and not a Nigerian. Because also you see, like there's a lot of interbreeding. But when it comes to Caucasian, you obviously know that, their descent is different from that of Africa. The Asian is different from that of Africa. So those population groups are more defined. They are more different than smaller subgroups between a particular population. So if you try to check, if this person is a Ghanaian instead of a Nigerian, the distance, the location is quite, is very short. So there's not enough data to support that, this person is this person is from here, this person is not from that. But if you are going to say, this person maybe 5 of this person's ancestors came from the American regions, you can get that. That's why you see, oh, this person is 50% African, 30% Caucasian, to show that, oh, there had been some inbreeding, there had been some breeding, but not inbreeding, actually other populations.
Okay. In a place like the northern Nigeria, where I'm glad you mentioned inbreeding, where a lot of people marry within the same families and all that, where there's inbreeding, how possible is it to find that when you do DNA in a particular place that you find them related, closely related? And what, based on your experience, do you think that there's a backslash to that, to inbreeding?
No, I don't think so. So the reason, based on DNA testing, there's no backslide. But based on medical testing, because when there's inbreeding, that means there's a prevalence of certain diseases. Because if in a particular family, diabetes is quite prevalent in their family, when someone that has the predisposition to diabetes marries someone else that has the predisposition to diabetes, obviously the offsprings would have that disease. So from the medical aspect, there's a backslide. But from the DNA aspect, there isn't, because what we are testing for is very specific. It's either this person is your father or not your father. It's either this person is your mother or not your mother. It's either you and this person are full siblings or you're not full siblings. It's either this person is your uncle or not your uncle. Most times you see that these people are distantly related, or first cousin, second cousin. But even if someone is your first cousin, doesn't mean that person is your uncle. So what we are testing for is specific. So from the DNA aspect, there is no issue concerning that. But from the medical approach, there might be issues.
Okay. So it would actually just be easier for you to know where you're from, but not necessarily if there's anything that would cause a problem down the road. Right.
So someone was talking about types of DNA investigations. I mentioned the medical investigation.
Yes.
So the investigation is different from the forensic investigation. It's different from the medical investigation. It's different from the relationship investigation, and it's different from the ancestry investigation. The process involved in each type of investigation is different.
Okay.
So if I'm going to test for sickle cell anemia or cystic fibrosis, I'm not going to do a paternity test.
Okay.
Yes, so that's different.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So there would be a difference. Okay. So how long used to, if you are going to do a DNA investigation,
yes,
whether you were looking for whatever it was that was the reason, we heard of tests running for 6 months, 1 year, and the likes. Is it still the same, or there's an improvement to that? Okay.
Basically, turnaround time for DNA analysis, it depends on the type of analysis you're trying to do. So for a relationship DNA test, between 2 to 4 weeks, you have your results. But for a forensic DNA test, it can, like, minimum time can be maybe 8 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So the number of samples being analyzed, the complexity of the analysis, the workload of the laboratory at that moment when you are submitting your case. So these are things that contribute to turnaround time.
Okay. So all these NCIS were deceiving me. I mean, they would go in, or they were like, the sample shows, and I'll be like, right now.
The thing is, even the processes that we use, if you want to extract DNA, you can, like, to extract DNA using the organic method takes hours. Can take, like, it's a whole day to run, like, even to run the samples on the instrument, it takes minutes. But you see this PSI, they'll say, oh, in 10 minutes we add the results. So very
now I've been delivered. I used to think it was that easy, honestly. Okay, so having said that, how what's what I'm looking for? Okay, so in testing for DNA for like an unborn child what is the likelihood that that is an accurate result, knowing that, or from what we've heard, a child is not completely formed, sometimes not completely, the heart is not sending the blood through. How can that test be totally true if the child's unborn? For instance, if there was a need for a DNA for an unborn child.
Okay, so it's 100% accurate. We do
Mhm.
prenatal DNA testing. So I'll just give a
Mhm.
rundown on the process involved in prenatal DNA testing.
Mhm.
There's the alleged father and there's the pregnant mother.
Mhm.
So we collect buccal sample from the alleged father. We collect the buccal sample from the mother, the pregnant mother, but we also
Yes.
collect mother's blood.
Mm.
So as early as weeks, the child's DNA is already present in the mother's blood.
Okay.
So because we already have the mother's profile from the buccal sample that we collected from the mother, which is at full profile, when we run the mother's blood, we can then extract the child's sample
Mhm.
from the profile that we get. Because when we run the mother's blood, we're going to get a mixture of
Oh,
samples. But we already have the mother's sample. So
yes.
anything that's not of the mother is obviously the child's. So we
Yes.
then compare the child's profile that we have extrapolated to the alleged father's own, and
Okay.
it's 100% accurate.
Oh, wow. I honestly have actually been puzzled about that, because I've seen in some cases that had happened. I have a case where the woman is trying to leave, and the man says it's pregnancy. She says it's not your pregnancy, and he's demanding a DNA, and there seems to be a tussle on that. And I wasn't so sure if it was really going to be a fair judgment for that kind of sample. But having said what you did, it will actually be easy to carry out that. Now, if
Yeah, very,
DNA,
it's
yeah,
a it's very, very expensive. It's
wow,
about £1 million, and only certified like collectors can collect the samples
yeah,
from that because of like the delicacy of the case.
okay, wow,
So most
that's quite a
people
lot.
wait until the child is born, because if you give birth to a child right now, we can conduct a DNA test on that child. So
Oh,
most times
wow.
wait.
Okay, so another case that I would like to cite that I am aware of is a father has died, and there's a claim over him being the father of someone, and the person is asking for the courts to, or the family first, to allow them get a sample to present of the father as his biological father, which the
Okay.
family have vehemently refused, and they're about to do the burial in some few weeks or so. And so I want to know, is it possible? He is saying that he's been told he can get any, if you can get the father's hair or something can be proven and all that. And so I said to him, I think he can take, if you can find a sibling who is willing to go along with him, they may find commonness. But he is trying to get some court order to allow him get the sample. Do you think a dead person's sample is viable?
Yes, yes. Even in death, your DNA still remains the same because your DNA is your genetic information. So since the body has not been buried, if the body had been buried, I'll say it needs to get an exhumation order from the court. But since the body has not been buried, it can get a court order, and a pathologist will collect either, if the body has been embalmed, which I think is something that we
Yes,
usually
it
do.
is.
For.
Yeah.
Okay, we would advise for deep tissue or bone or even
Okay.
teeth. Because if the body has been embalmed, the chemicals they use, it disrupts the DNA process, and we might not get anything.
Yeah,
It's in.
I think
So
the quarrel the family has with is actually what you mentioned. The pathologist or the had said to him, because it's happening in the east, that it has to be bone or teeth, and the family are willing to do without a part of their father's body. That's what is the quarrel. And
wow.
he didn't want to involve the courts. He just wanted to have an investigation, because he had been denied severally and his mother insists that even while the father was alive, he had denied being his father. And so the mother insists he's the father, and that's the only way they can seem to get. And he doesn't want to have rancor with the families by bringing in the court demanding one family member goes after that. So that's actually the problem. And I said I was going to ask the question: can't it be hair or something?
Oh, so what we would advise is that someone that is a known family, like someone that they are sure that, okay, this person is related to the deceased, maybe the deceased brother or sister, can come in and we can do an avuncular test. So, like I said before, avuncular, to know if somebody is your uncle or your aunt. If if the deceased father is alive, we can do a grandparentage test between him and the grandparents also to establish relationship. If the deceased has other children, we can also do a siblingship test to determine that they are half siblings. So it's not just paternity tests that can be utilized. There are various degrees of tests that can be utilized.
The problem this person has is the fact that none of family members want to subject themselves to that.
Then he has to go to court to test then.
Yes, and he really didn't want to choose the court route, but it looks like that is the only option because it would demand that. Okay, so how accurate is a DNA analysis? How accurate? Whether it's you're looking for genetics, you're looking for what investigation for self, whatever, whether it's a court order, whether it's paternity, whatever it is, how certain is a DNA analysis for a person to know I'm working with an accurate information moving forward?
Okay, so DNA. So do you want me to speak about DNA or like DNA in general?
Yeah,
or like
DNA.
We are doing. Okay, so DNA in general is 100% accurate. Science does not lie. Science is very neutral. Science does not know you. Science does not care who you are. Science will only say what it can see. So a DNA test, DNA investigations, it takes no sides. It's very neutral. It just says what exactly happened. So for a forensic investigation, it will either say, oh, this person was at the crime scene or this person was not at the crime scene. It doesn't know who the suspect is. For a relationship test, it will either say this person is the biological relative of this one or this person is not the biological relationship or relation of this one. So, and DNA doesn't change. It's not like you say, oh, my DNA when I was 10 years old is not my DNA now that I'm 25 years old or 30 years old or 50 years old. So I need to run another DNA test. DNA test, like, it doesn't change. It's the same result, even if it's very repeatable. So if you repeat it 100 times, the result you get is the same. It is either yes or no. So DNA is 100% accurate. It is 100% precise. It takes no sides. It is very neutral. So if you get a DNA test, you can trust it.
Can DNA, my last question, can DNA be carried out on animals?
So every living creature has what makes it itself. So plants have DNAs, animals have DNAs, insects have DNA. Like if you check scientific research, you see scientists really working on Drosophila, working on rats, working on things like that to find whatever it is that they're searching for. So every living creature has DNA, but for when we're doing DNA investigation, as a forensic DNA analyst or DNA analyst, we're looking at it from the human standpoint. So while plants have DNA, we're not trying to see, if this seed or if this tree is a sibling to that tree. They are all in the same species. That's how you can know that, okay, this plant is in the same species as this other one. This animal is in the same species as this other one. But you're not trying to see, if it's this mother rat that gave birth to this child rat, because it's like a wastage of process. But if that was someone's research process or research topic, it's something that they would have to do.
Okay. Well, I asked that because there are times that you want to buy dogs, especially in Nigeria, and you're told this is the type of dog it is. And then when it gets a certain age, you realize that you bought a mixed breed, which has happened to me before. You pay for a dog. I know someone who bought a dog for 250, Mine was about 100,000, but it was because I trusted that vet. But to be very honest, sometimes that deception of knowing that you're giving a crossbreed, it happened to me with one of my security dogs. I was told it was a particular dog. It was when it littered that we found out that it wasn't that specific or that type of dog, and it can be painful because you've invested money in that kind of. For me, it is an investment because security dogs don't come cheap. So yeah, so you put a lot of money in it, and then you don't get. So I've said it. Any vet who brings me a dog from now, I'm going to do forensic DNA for it.
What people like to do is concerning dogs, because I have 2 dogs. So what people like to do is they like to see both the father and the mother of the dogs. Then also there are tests that your vet can carry to know if this dog is 100% or German Shepherd, 100% Alsatian. Like there are veterinary tests that can be done concerning that, but it's not usually DNA tests like the ones that we do.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's good to know that. All right. I'd like to thank you, Victoria, for joining me on the show today. And if you're just joining for the very first time, have you heard of ITSI Biosciences? They're here in Abuja and they carry out DNA testing. I've told you the price before. If you've not heard me say it, it's 150,000. The day I heard it, I felt that and I haven't tested everybody around me to be sure, but it's good. And when you want to do it, please just tell them you heard from us, and you would be received very well, because I can assure you it's the best place. In fact, you walk in, you would not believe that they are a lab. They carry out other diagnostic analysis, whether you're looking to find your blood type, whatever it is, but it's in depth, it's very precise, and is thorough. You would feel the sense of professionalism once you walk in there, especially when you meet Glory. I've met her before, and now I'm meeting Victoria. Thank you very much for joining me.
And in Lagos, in case anyone is in Lagos, we have an office.
Yes, if you're in Lagos, they have an office in Lagos. If you need any information, please send me a message. I would give you their contact free of charge, so you can reach out to them and help. Why do I do this? To give people the peace of mind she talks about. Because when I was on radio, I had men who called on the show and said, I think this child is not mine, or she has told me this child is not mine. Now she's back peddling and saying, no, it's yours, and I want to have some peace of mind. So if I can give them peace of mind. Yet there are people who have gone and because they don't know where they're from, and they're wondering, what would my children be carrying over when it comes to disease? Go to the hospital for antenatal, they ask you, do you have family history of this, that, and go like, I don't know. So for your own peace of mind, to know where you are from and what are things that have been passed around, and so you can safeguard yourself, you should do the testing. I can tell you one story. One day I woke up and my son suffered from seizure at the age of 11, and they asked us if there was a history of it. Nobody was willing to tell me about it because it seemed like a huge secret to keep seizures, because it looks like evil spirit problem in Nigeria. And so in cases like that, you just want to be sure. If I marry this person, is there a mental health problem? Is there in-depth problems that I would need to foresee so that we can handle before we go on? For your peace of mind, you need to do a DNA analysis. But you can do other things with this company, and hopefully you would go there. Thank you very much, Victoria, for joining me for today's show. And I do apologize for the late start and everything else in between that. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day, Victoria, and all of you who are watching. Please do share the video or like it. This is Hadiza Patrick Otoro on She Talk. Have a lovely Wednesday. Bye.